I am not a pattern designer. I have dabbled a little bit trying to come up with a few simple patterns, and the amount of effort that goes into it is just way too much for me. The attention to detail, having to create different sizes if it's a wearable like that, and the amount of filming, the amount of writing, the amount of like redoing a project is astounding, which is why I don't do it. I don't have the patience. I don't have the skills. And pattern designers really need some serious kudos for all of the work they do and that goes into it. So how do I feel about adapting patterns? Let's get into it. I adapt a lot of patterns for myself, and that's okay. There's a few reasons and a few situations where it's not okay, and I'll get into that later. But let me tell you why I do adapt a pattern and how I do it. Sometimes it's about fit. Sometimes certain patterns just need to fit a little bit better. I've had hats that are way too long. I recently made these messy bun beanies, and this pattern has been around forever. I haven't even tied this one off, but it's by Ashley at A Crafty Concept. So here is the messy bun beanie I made exactly to specifications on the video. Turned out great, but what I noticed about this particular one is that the brim, like the length of it, was just a little bit too long for me. I also kind of didn't like how the edge seemed a little bit like unfinished or raw to me. I have gotten where I pretty much, when I'm making anything in the back loop, on that open edge, I always crochet into both loops, because to me, I feel like it just adds a little bit more finished look to it. So on this particular one, I did less of a brim. I added 2 or 3 less crochets to the length, and I also crocheted through both loops on this side of it to make it my own. And then let's talk about these mandala vests right here. This is the original one, and this came from the channel, I believe her name is Emmy, and the channel is Hectanuga1. And this is her mandala vest. I will have this linked if you want to do it. This is exactly how she did it. I tried to take a little footage of myself in the mirror, and for some reason I was just not getting very good footage, so I'm going to try to put that in here next to me so you can see it on and see a couple of the things that just really weren't my style. These front pieces right here, while they're fun, I didn't like how it hung off of the whitest part of my body and came straight down. I've been trying to wear a lot of waistlines that are higher, more like empire waistlines, since that is like the smallest part of my waist, to bring that in a little bit. And this particular one had the absolute opposite effect. And if that's not something you're worried about, not a big deal. It's just for me and my personal style. I just didn't really like how it hung off of me. I think the colors are beautiful. This is Deep Teal in Red Heart Ombre. I feel like this is a discontinued yarn, but I think I saw it at Mary Maxim still. So if it is available, I will link that below. If it is not, I am sorry. There might be one. I know, didn't Premier come out with some new ombres? They might have one that's compatible. So when I knew I wanted to make another one, I knew a couple different things. I actually wanted to make the back a little bit wider so it was a little more comfy and less constricting, and I knew I didn't want the front pieces coming down, but I did really like you know, the fluffiness at the bottom here. So I chose not to make these extension pieces till I got down to the bottom of the armpit right here. And I really liked how this turned out. I thought it was great. I really liked how it fit, and there was a lot more waistline showing. This was a Karen cinnamon swirl cake in the color tortoiseshell, I believe. I don't think this is available any longer. I had gotten it at Hirschner's when they had them for like $3, so I don't think that is available available anymore. But if you are looking at a Hirschner's cinnamon swirl cake, it would probably still have the same effect, just in different colors. So these are two fairly different pieces, and I am so okay, and I'm so glad I adapted that for myself. But you're never gonna see a tutorial on my channel about how I did that, just because the bulk of this piece still belongs to Emmy. I did not, like, my whole centerpiece, everything, I used a larger crochet hook and changed this, but otherwise that's still her pattern. Changing things for the size and fit is 100% acceptable. Making a pattern your own by changing the yarn, the hook size, are great ways to really make that pattern your own and make it suit you better. I've got a bunch of things I have made here on my channel, and not everyone loves my color schemes. I totally get that, and that's fine, but I'm making stuff because I know I want to wear it and I want to enjoy it. So I've actually got an upcoming video, it might be the very next one out, where I'm using these 3 gorgeous yarns. These came in a 3-pack. I will have a link down below if you are interested, but I will go into it in detail in the next video. But I don't expect people to use my exact ones. If you love it, I love providing you with the information so that you can recreate it. But I'm also gonna let you know that I'm totally fine with, like, you could be doing totally opposite colors as me. Instead of like warm fall colors, you could be doing like icy blues or like tropical colors. I don't care. I want you to adapt it to make it for you. Aside from using a bigger hook size, I also added some extra rows to this piece right here, and this is a great way to also adapt it. The same way, if you need to size something down, you can use a smaller hook, or you can take out a few rows. Basically, adapting a pattern is just making very small changes, very similar to like when you adapt a recipe to fit your particular taste. Really think along those same lines. So many times on projects, I have also left off a trim or added a trim. Another easy adaptation you can make. If you are interested in adapting a pattern, you need to make sure though that you are using a similar type of yarn to what the pattern calls for. I don't recommend going too far off base here. If they're using an acrylic, if they're using a wool, you know, different things like that have different stretch. They're going to look different when they're made. So that's something I would be a little more careful of, and really avoid getting too far off the mark as far as the type of yarn or the size of yarn that the person is using. Just remember, a good pattern designer has gone through it so many times, and they've made a ton of mistakes really perfecting that pattern. It's especially true if you are dealing with a paid pattern and something that you can see has sold thousands and thousands of times and has great reviews. Like, that has really been worked through. So a couple of obvious things here. Obviously, the people in the companies that take people's patterns and literally just scan them and use all of their pictures and resell them, obviously that's unethical. Obviously that's wrong. That is not adapting a pattern. Earlier I said there's certain things that you're never going to see me do a video on, and I think it is important to stress that that person and that pattern designer went through a lot of effort. Like I said, I'm working on another not a crochet along type of project. I did one earlier about a month ago for this 5-night fall shawl, which I absolutely loved. A bunch of viewers did go and buy this beautiful yarn, and I've even gotten a few photos from people showing me what they've made so far, and I absolutely love that. So please, my email is down in the description box. I always love to see any of your projects, especially one like this. Based on the feedback, I have decided to do another one. Actually, 2 other ones. I've gotten the yarn already. As I said, it's over here. But in this type of not a crochet along, where basically I'm giving you a pattern, showing you the yarn I use, giving you the hook size, and telling you like how many rows of what I did, I'm not showing you how to do that because I wanted to pick a pattern that was easy for all skill levels and that had a ton of views and great comments on it, so that anyone based on their skill level could go and pick it up and not struggle and have an easy tutorial. Tutorials are hard to film, and there's a lot of good ones, but there's a lot of bad ones as well. So I wanted to pick something that I knew would be a top-notch pattern and easy for everyone to do. And that's why I won't be showing you how to do it, because I don't want to take away from that original creator's effort that they put into it. And I am thrilled to be able to send people over to their video. They can watch it, get the AdSense revenue from it, and enjoy the rewards of their hard work. Now here's like a little bit of gray area, but for me, I would be fine with this. If I am someone, I am not, but if I was someone who was selling finished pieces, I would 100% feel okay taking this piece, if I made these, taking this with my alterations and selling these to people, like in my community or, online or whatever. Because the people buying these type of finished pieces, whether you're selling little amigurumis or wearables or dishcloths or whatever, the people purchasing those are not looking for patterns. People who buy things like this don't crochet themselves. So there is a big difference, because they are not going to be looking for a pattern to make this. They're buying it because they want it already finished. They don't care. They don't ever want to know. And that is something that I did also learn from Ashley at A Crafty Concept, where she talks a lot about, because she's always telling people you most definitely have her permission to use her patterns and sell the finished product. And she does say, feel free to credit her and say, this pattern came from A Crafty Concept. And she said she's dealt with it at different craft fairs when someone who crochets does come up to the table and they're not going to buy that finished object. If someone who crochets came up to the table if I was selling this and was asking me about it, and I could either tell they crocheted or they tell me they crochet, I would say, yeah, I got this pattern from Hectanuga 1. It's such and such mandala vest. I did make some adaptations to make it fit better and work better for me. Your finished piece purchaser and your pattern purchaser are never going to be the same person. They are just not. So I do believe that that is a situation where it is okay to be profiting off of the changes you made to something. But I'm definitely not okay trying to pass off a product as my own to a viewer when I took it from someone else. I hope that makes sense. I remember like a year or two ago, there was a pretty big YouTuber who occasionally crochets, and she did a blanket. And to be honest, the pattern had been around for a while. Like, I believe it was kind of like a retro pattern, and a lot of crocheters who had also done them in the recent past were kind of upset with this person, and her video got a ton of views. And I totally get the frustration that comes from that, because I don't think the crochet YouTubers that had made similar ones actually really invented this crochet blanket, because again, I feel like it has been around for a very long time. At least the squares in it had been around for a very long time. I mean, maybe the colors choices that they put together, they came up with that, but at its core, I think it had been around. And I just remember thinking, like, if I was one of the crochet YouTubers who had put so much effort into putting together a really nice tutorial and worked hard on it, and then someone who's really primarily in another niche, like the lifestyle niche, came over and, did this and then got hundreds of thousands of views on it just like instantly off of hers, that would be pretty heartbreaking. But again, it's one of those where, there's a lot of gray area in that, and you do kind of really need to think, like, number one, is it worth it? Or, is anyone even gonna know? So my rule of thumb, if you're not out there trying to resell someone else's pattern, make a tutorial that someone else created, I think you're pretty well safe adapting a pattern to make it your own. And the reasons you'd want to adapt are generally for fit, for size, for style, for color choices, and it is really pretty easy to do based on either adding, subtracting rows, using a larger or smaller crochet hook, and definitely picking out colors that are true to you. I want to thank you so much for talking yarn with me today. I'll see you again soon. Bye.